Hello everyone and welcome to Whisky Wednesday. The Isle of Raasay. I've tried the single barrel in the past, the one that was Tennessee oak and I think it was Bordeaux or some sort of French wine. I think it was Bordeaux. Bordeaux seems to be on trend because it's in this one too. It was in the Glen Scotia a couple of weeks ago. This is their first batch of standard single malt. I think it says on the label R01 and there's quite a bit to talk about with it. Much like Ardnamurchan, they've gone for a recipe of peated and unpeated spirit. The peated spirit is around 45 ppm prior to distillation, I believe. And the cask influences are huge. We've got virgin oak, we've got rye casks as well. Rye whiskey casks, Chinkapin oak casks, which only, to my memory, Jura have used with the 212 release a couple of years ago. And we've got some Bordeaux red wine. Both spirits have been in all three casks. I don't know if the rye cask is actually a rye cask or just a high rye bourbon. I think on their website it says high rye bourbon, but still very rye influenced. We are dealing with a natural coloured product, non-chill filter at 46.4%, a beautiful strength. And this bottle of whiskey, without shipping, from Royal Mile Whiskies, cost me 47 quid, which isn't a lot of money for what is granted, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, what can maximum be a 5-year-old whiskey. At maximum. But in a beautiful bottle with loads of information on the back of the box with the island population, all the water's filtered through like Jurassic and volcanic rock. The bottle has these cool little ammonite fossils in it all over the place. So they really are, they are out there on the west coast. They're the island that's kind of buttressed in between Skye and the mainland of Scotland. Lots of history that, like prehistoric history with that. But regarding the whiskey, the single barrel I tried a couple of months ago was outstanding. It was very good, very smoked meat sort of thing to it. And this follows that style. It says lightly peated on the box. I would agree with that, even with a 45 ppm style. But let's smell, let's taste. This may, at the time this video comes out, it may be the first video review of this whiskey. Maybe, maybe not. But it was easy-ish to get hold of. I think it sold out not mad quick, but pretty quick. And it arrived pretty much the next day. So Royal Mile Whiskies, your shipping team are very good. But yeah, just look at this thing. It looks beautiful. And all the information on the back of the box is on the side of it. You could look at this bottle for ages. I feel like this is the kind of bottle that people are going to keep just because it looks really individual, much like the Hibiki bottle. But anyway, let's smell and taste and see what's going on with Rassay. So the nose instantly reminds me of Ledaig, which for all you whiskey fans out there is always a good thing. Specifically the Ledaig 10, nothing older than that. That dry, smoky, kind of like smoke machine, school dance hall situation. Kind of minerally. I don't know what the definition of the word mineralic is. We see it, I've used it a lot, but it's being used more now, but that kind of dry chalkiness, wet Pebble Beach sort of smell. Amazingly, for something which has virgin oak and rye influence, there's not loads of caramel and there's not loads of vanilla. But saying that, it is a 5-year-old moderately peated spirit, even though it says lightly on the side of it. So, the youthfulness of that peat will always be the dominant flavour. So no matter how many casks you throw at it, I think, the smoke will always be the dominant thing at a young age. Yeah, but it's got these nice, salty, coastal, smoky notes to it. There's nothing really jumping out with the cask influences, I'll be honest with you. Thinking about the Glen Scotia Bordeaux, and then trying to compare like some of the notes to this, there is a fruitiness to it. Oh, and one thing I did forget to mention, the fermentation time on this is literally insane. It's fermented for 5 days. And a lot of these newer distilleries are going for very long fermentation. Older ones have done it as well. American distilleries sometimes distill for 2, 3, 4 days. I think it's something like 115 or 118 hours fermentation time. The longer you ferment the beer or the wort, the more citric tones you get out of it, like apple and banana. But mixing peated with unpeated spirit, in this case, I think the peat is so dominant There is a slight fruitiness to it, and maybe the Bordeaux is backing that up, but it's not huge. Maybe just like again, like a strawberry note and like a red berry note. A bit of kind of green orchid fruit. You couldn't really say apple or pear, just like a green kind of bright citrusiness. But the overriding thing is this lush, gentle, drying, minerally style of smoke. And given all of this sort of Jurassic and volcanic filtration of their water, that kind of minerally note should kind of be front of the list in my mind, which it is. But let's taste it and see what's going on. Okay, so initially, that sweetness really does shine through. That fermentation time and those cask influences really coming about. Again though, they're still not vanilla, they're still not caramel. It's just gently sweet. And fruity sweet, not like dessert, bakery, patisserie sort of sweet. Apple, pear, there's a little bit of lemon. Salt, without the smoke, totally separate. Let's have another taste for the arrival. Yeah, light orchid fruits, kind of juicy, ripe flavors. Then as it gets to the back of the tongue, the smoke seems to like do like a full 180 and come back towards the front of your palate, kind of tickles the front of your tongue a bit. It's not dry. Finish is lovely. Like, you know, for something which is young and has been vatted with an unpeated spirit from the same distillery. Beautiful combination, mellow, smoky, a very full-bodied nature to it. I don't want to use the word oily, because oily and coastal whiskies, they kind of go hand in hand these days. They're very sort of connotative of each other. It's not oily, but just mouth coating. Kind of the same thing, right? Semantics, but it doesn't have that kind of dirtiness that an Ardbeg or a Lafroig has, or even some Ledaig. It's lighter than that, but still has that kind of reminder of it. Kind of nostalgic in a few ways, even for such a young product. Apologies for the sirens that are about to roll past. We are in a sort of functioning city centre at this point. The more you drink it, the sweeter the arrival is. And then the more intense that kind of backdraft of smoke becomes. And then you get some of those smoked meat flavors I was talking about with the single cask they did almost a year ago, I think, or maybe even a few months ago. Yeah, smoked meats, deli meats like pastrami and pepperoni and salami, flavors like that. And kind of dipping its toe into that almost hydrocarbony diesel fishing boat thing, which we've had with like peated Loch Lomans and things in the past. Some Ardbegs too. Weirdly enough, now I've said the word Ardbeg and Ledaig, it's almost as if you took like Ardbeg Uigeadail and took it down a bit. Because that's, excuse me, that's 54.2%. This is 46.4. It almost does feel like you've taken the contents of Uigeadail, which is mainly bourbon and sherry, and just pulled it back a little bit and made it a little sweeter. Which in my mind is a beautiful thing, because I love Ardbeg Uigeadail, but it can just be a bit monstrous at times. Whereas this seems to have got that initial balance wonderful. The nose is a little muted, I'll be honest with you. All these cask influences, I don't think they're doing, they clearly work because it works on the palate, but I don't think there's loads coming off the nose apart from the smoke, but that's expected at a whiskey of this age. But yeah, the finish is long and lovely and smoky. The initial arrival is sweet and mouth coating and kind of ripe and fruity. It covers all corners of Scotch whiskey in many, many different ways. I think for a 5-year-old product, that's beautiful. It very much reminds me of what Ardnamurchan would be like if they turned the peat up a little bit and used, well, the cask influence doesn't really matter. But these guys on Ardnamurchan, I'm really keeping my eyes on. This gets a solid 8.5. I think that's delicious. It's only £47. I think I paid 54 with shipping, but let's ignore that. £47 for a whiskey that does all of that, looks this good, tastes really good, it's got a great history. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Solid 8.5 for me. So this is Whiskey Wednesday. This is the Isle of Rassay first single malt whiskey. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed that one. If you've got one, open it, because it tastes great. And I'll see you all next week. Cheers.